Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry. If you are new, thanks for joining us. Just want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe. Help grows the channel. Also, we have different videos linked in the description. So if you go to the description, there'll be links to different videos that kind of relate to the topic. So if you don't feel like scrolling backwards, you could do that. It's a little bit of info in there. I don't know if I always mention that, but I just wanted to mention that. So we are getting close to the new season. You know, the anticipation is high. All the energy's real. Preseason, everybody's overreacting, all that good stuff. All right. So with that being said, we want to talk about some rankings, all those different things. Obviously, people like to talk about quarterbacks. I think people talk too much about quarterbacks, but that's what we're going to start with. And then we'll do some other stuff in different episodes as we get closer to the season. But before we get started, for those who have been around, and even for those that might be new, I am jumping out of my seat. I figured this out right before I left work. Or before the work day ended, and I ended up staying like 30 extra minutes because I just had to sit at my computer and go through this. The NFL.com, NFL people, whatever, they have sneakily upgraded NFL Plus with this new feature called NFL Pro Plus or something like that. I don't know. I think it said it's been here for 3 years. I've never heard of this. I've been paying for this thing for years. I never heard of this. But anyway, people that have been around for a while, you will remember that back in the day, I used to do a lot more film session. And then we got to a point where they took it off NFL Plus and charged us the same amount, which was crazy. Finally brought it back. I was kicking and screaming for over a year. They brought it back in a limited format because back in the day, you used to be able to filter the plays. So I could filter by all types of stuff. I could say, let me pull up every Justin Fields interception. I could look at it every year, or I could look at it just 1 year. I could look at interceptions on third downs. I could do a lot of different cool things. And this was a long time ago. And so we went backwards. And I was mad about that for a long time. But anyway, they got these new features now, and it gives you all these advanced stats, obviously tracked by the NFL, so I trust it more than Professional Focus or whoever. I trust these stats, but also they brought back the filter, and it has more options. So we're going to get back to that. I mean, the last few years, we've been able to do bear stuff. That's fine. And I think with Caleb, we're going to want to see a lot of stuff. But we're going to be able to be more specific, which means I can streamline and I can make videos quicker, which means I can make more. But it also means for those non-Bears fans and everybody else, if there's something you want to see, let me know. Like, I have some videos that people still comment on from years ago. And I did those because somebody in the comments asked me to do it. And so if there's something that you want to see, and I can filter it out, or at least to my best of ability, we can go back, look at those plays, look at the all 22 and really chop it up. So that I'm over the moon. I'm excited. So again, in the comment section, let me know if it's something you want to see. Again, we could look at it over time. We could look at just one specific season. We could look at one specific play. We could do those things. All right. With that being said, the reason you're all here for the quarterbacks. Now, if you remember, if you were here, I did the QB tier list last year, and that video will be linked at the end of this video so you can jump back and see. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on it because honestly, a lot hasn't changed. Like, I did this before the season last year, and not a lot has changed. And so this was inspired. I wish I could give him credit. It's some publication, and he'll probably be coming out with it again this year, and then I'll remember his name. But he puts out the tier list that he calls it, and these are tiers based on criteria, not just let me rank them, blah, blah, blah. I talk a lot about how bad evaluation is, especially in football and assessment and all that. And that's just my area. and work, and so I'm very particular about those things. So a lot hasn't changed, but I'll go through it real quick just so you know. Now, the biggest thing is that I have tier 4. And this is the truth of the matter that a lot of people don't want to hear, especially when you got people talking about who's going to be a star and who's going to be a bust based off like 5 preseason snaps. Like, we've gotten to that point. So nuance is not really the casual fan's friend, but if you're listening, I hope you stick around to be a better Bears fan, better football fan, because this is how we actually evaluate. Tier 4 is labeled too early to tell. That's the first thing. Well, that's one of the things. They're either too early to tell, they have poor tools, or they're only productive in limited situations. And the truth of the matter is the vast majority, or not vast, but the big chunk of quarterbacks, especially right now, they're in tier 4. It's too early to tell. So all the rookies are in there. So there's no need to really talk about the rookies. We haven't saw them play or seen them play, but Anthony Richardson's in there, CJ Stroud's in there, Bryce Young, Jordan Love. Now, I know people go, CJ Stroud's clearly a top 5. No, there's nothing clear. Even with Jordan Love, as good of a season as people think he had, I need to see that again. He's only started 1 year. And so the same thing for CJ and everybody else. So it works both ways. You can't say, yeah, they had a bad year, but that's just 1 year. Let's see. You have to do it the other way too. It was a great year, a good year, but we got to see, because defenses are going to adjust. They're going to try to do things to you that you don't like, and we see it with real legit top 5 quarterbacks. Specific games, they can hone in and make you uncomfortable, but that's because you've had that experience. Now with these guys, we got to see how they take that punch, because a lot of teams are going to try to come for them. So tier 4, mostly too early to tell. The only one that's in there out of the starters is Daniel Jones. Also got Will Levis in there, by the way. But Daniel Jones, look, I make no type of attempt to hide it. I was a Daniel Jones fan coming out, not over Kyler Murray or everything. And I will 1,000% say until this day that his evaluation is crazy. The number of times that I hear the excuse for any quarterback about, well, they never had a top target. They never had this. They didn't do this. We got to see this. Daniel has had none of that, on top of bad coaching. But anyway, the results are the results so far. This year's not super different. The O-line's a little better, but they lost Saquon. He does have Malik Neighbors, and we'll see. But I'm going to put him in tier 4. Got to be fair about that. All right, tier 3, you have an elite trait, or you have incomplete tools. You never maximize the offense's production. In negative situations, you rarely maintain the offense's production. So when we talk about situations, pretty natural things that you think about. You got a matchup against the defense, a good matchup, your receivers versus theirs or whatever. Running back, your O-line's better than their D-line. You got a turnover. The defense got a turnover and you got a short field. You are leading the entire game, things like that. When things are on your side and things are working for you, it's a positive situation. And what do you do with that? These quarterbacks don't maximize the offense. They might maintain it, but they don't maximize it. And when things are negative and it's the opposite and things aren't going well, they rarely maintain it. So that's Deshaun Watson, Justin Fields, Baker Mayfield, Derek Carr, Gardner Minshew, Kyler Murray, Geno Smith, Russ Wilson. And obviously, Russ and Justin are kind of fighting right now. Gardner got named the starter, so we went with him. But and really, I look at this list, I don't think there's much debate. Kyler, when things are going well, the offense has looked good at times, but we've yet to see him ever maximize it. And he's definitely, in my opinion, he's never really got the offense going when things are going bad. All right, tier 2, you have complete tools or you have an elite trait. Positive situations, you consistently maintain the offense's production. Occasionally, you maximize it. And in negative situations, occasionally you can maintain the offense's production level. That is Lamar Jackson, Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Tua, Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, and Brock Purdy, who was on the too early to tell list last year, but he's moved up. I think not only, what he's done leading the team to the playoffs 2 years in a row, but also what we saw against Detroit in the conference championship game, which I was rewatching at the gym not too long ago, and they were down so much. They were down bad, and it wasn't all Purdy, of course, but Purdy was the quarterback. He captained that ship and brought them all the way back, and obviously they almost beat the Chiefs. I don't think you could deny it. Purdy's in tier 2. So again, some of these, I'm sure, there's some people who point at certain things. But for me, I think about Dak, I'm not going to explain everybody, but like Dak's, some people might say that, okay. And I do think he maximizes the offense occasionally, even maybe a little consistently when things are going well. It's the negative situations. He's not consistent in maintaining offense when things are going bad. When things are going bad, it's usually because of him, and he usually tanks with the situation. And Lamar, similar thing for me as well. Golf, Cousins, kind of limited. Things got to be going well. And yeah, Tua's in that group too. And Stafford, he's more just inconsistent for me. And Herbert, he just hasn't shown us enough to say that he can consistently maximize their offense. He's had good units, and they just, even though the defense has been bad, he's had good offensive units, and they just never maximize it. So tier 1 would be Joe Burrow. So let me back up. Complete tools. Got to have complete tools. Positive situation, you maximize the offense's production. I would say consistently. In negative situations, you can maintain or elevate the offense's production consistently. So that's Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. And for me, Aaron Rodgers is tier 1 until I see that he's not. I know some people will argue that last year shows you he's not the guy. I don't understand. How does getting injured show you that they're not somebody? But those the same people might say Joe Burrow's not tier 1 because he got injured. That's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about ability and skill set. Yes, availability, best ability. I get that, but that's not really something that a player can control necessarily. So that's not something that I think about. So yeah, until I see Aaron Rodgers in a full season show me that he just does not have it or that he's going to hurt the offense, he's tier 1 for me. But very much might drop this year. Josh Allen, that's the one people probably, Now, what I'll say is that Josh Allen could absolutely maximize the offense. There's no question about it. If they're rolling, he can get them rolling at peak condition. He can also knock them out of their momentum sometimes. So that's fair. But I still think he qualifies in that he can maximize your offensive production when things are positive. And when things are negative, there's no question. We seen him bring the team back. We seen him put the team on his back. So, yes, that's it. So that's my tiers. Again, nothing changed from last year except Brock Purdy moved into tier 2. And we got a bunch of people in tier 4. So you can still go back and watch last year's. Now, let's get to the top 10. The way that I'm breaking down the top 10, and this is important because we're going to have a lot of backlash. Maybe if people engage, we'll get a lot of backlash. And then I'm going to point you right back to this point. I am basing this off because we don't just do, vague top 10 so people can argue. That's what sports media do. We define it. So I am basing this off top 10, meaning if I am getting put, if I'm a coach or whatever, if you're a fan, I don't care. if you're given one of the 32 teams randomly at random, which quarterback would you want? Obviously, you don't know the team, so you could have anything. You could have the Jets roster, you could have the Panthers roster. What quarterback are you taking? And to me, a lot of people will say, no, we base quarterbacks on what they do with what they got. And that's fine. That's a legit way to look at it. That's one way to look at it. But for me, that doesn't even the playing field. That just tells me you got a better situation than me most of the time. Obviously, Pat Mahomes and other people, we can see evidence that no, they can do more with less. Tom Brady, that's why he's the GOAT. But for me, the way to make it as even as possible is what can you do no matter what the team is. And that is why we look at skill set and not numbers for me. All right, so number one, Pat Mahomes. No argument there. We've seen him. And some people might point out that what you'll see is that they might say, oh, you're holding it against them to have a good situation. And again, it's not really holding it against you. It's just the simple fact, it's the context of some players we haven't seen what you can do outside of that. And some players we have. And yes, they'll get a boost for having experience and being able to do it in different ways. Pat Mahomes, we've seen it all, man. I mean, like terrible tackles, bad receiving core, a lot of drops, hurt ankle, top offense, good running game, bad running game, average defense, top 10 like he's done it all. So there's no question, Pat Mahomes. Number two, Joe Burrow, same thing. And this is kind of a backwards exercise because I think about the things he doesn't have. He doesn't have an offensive line. People say, oh, he's not durable. Obviously, they had a terrible offensive line, one of the most sacked quarterbacks. So him to be able to do what he did with that offensive line, with the run game some years was good. Lately, it hasn't been as great. But for him to be able to do that with that offensive line, I would say you put him on a random team, you luck up and get some good pass protection. Man, we might be seeing even better. Now, the other side is he had great receivers. Obviously, he played a year without Jamar Chase and still was able to look good. And I have enough evidence to say I know Joe Burrow knows how to read defense and be accurate and work the pocket. And yes, having great receivers work. But again, you give me a random team, I like my chances with Joe Burrow. Josh Allen. We've seen Josh do it. Well, some people won't say without a top receiver, which is true. But I think he completely changed I've talked about it before. He changed his throwing mechanics. He changed a lot that year at the same year that Stephon Diggs got there. And we'll learn a lot more this year. But overall, top arm in the league. Very durable, doesn't get sacked a lot, can get out of sacks, mobile, all those things. That walks. That walks on a team with a bad defense where you got to be a shootout. That walks on a team where you got to be more ball control, play action. That walks everywhere. So Josh Allen, any random team, I'm good with it. Justin Herbert, and I know people like to talk about the accomplishments. Look, he's had good offensive units. He has not had good defensive units. That does play a factor into it as well. But also, people got to remember, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Elkler and like the whole group, they didn't play a ton of games together. There was a lot of injuries between the star players. And so the offensive line got better, but it wasn't great when he first got there. So we have seen Justin Herbert have to do it in different ways, but this is where we get the skill set. I mean, the size, the arm power, the ball placement, all those different things. Is he perfect? No. Has he shown us what we need to see? No. But again, we're taking the approach of give me a random team. I want Justin Herbert. I absolutely want Justin Herbert because, like I said, and I think, again, this year is a great year for him as well. we'll see what it looks like with a ball control offense without any of those weapons. And so, how does it look when he has to play off play action? Now, me, I tend to work backwards. The higher skill, once you show me a higher skill, I think you could do the lower skills. To me, it's a higher skill to have a pass happy offense and be effective. And to walk it back and do ball control play action, that to me is easier. So we'll see, especially if he's healthy. But that's my thought. I do think many different styles Justin Herbert will be able to adapt. Number 5, quite controversial, Dak Prescott. Now, again, this isn't a one game in the playoffs thing. I get it. And he very much, I'm not there. I don't know him. He very much might melt down in pressure situations. But the thing is, Dak has done a lot. And yes, you can say he's always had a good O-line. I'm not going to deny that. But Dak's been in a run-heavy offense. He's been in a play-action offense. He's been in a throw-it-around-the-field offense. He can lead the league or get close to leading the league in passing yards. He can also be the ultimate game manager. Like, he can do a lot of things. The tools are there. He's definitely not as mobile as he used to be, but he still gives you a little bit of that. Everything's there. Like, I don't think anybody can sit here and honestly say that Dak Prescott like feeds on terrible defenses and gets exposed in the playoffs. I don't really think he's exposed. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks. Obviously top 5. I think that he might have a mental thing. And so, yes, that's not ideal. But again, if I'm rolling into a season, I got a random team. Dak is probably only one other, two other quarterbacks on this list that have shown you more in terms of his ability to be effective in different ways. Number 6 is Aaron Rodgers. Again, tier 1 probably would be higher on this list, but I got to see him fail first, like completely fail. We ain't talking about playoffs. I got to see that Aaron Rodgers ain't accurate no more, or that he can't move, or that he isn't reading defenses as fast. I got to see that first. So, Aaron, we've seen him in a bunch of different eras, and we know what he is. CJ Stroud at number 7. Limited size. The thing I do like, while I don't agree with this whole he made the receivers, I do like that he came in with a young group, in a group that didn't have expectations or a ton of confidence, and he was still able to thrive with them. And his calling card last year was deep passing. That's not typical, especially of a young quarterback. So we'll see. We'll see again. I say too early to tell. We gotta see how this year goes. But I like the size. He has mobility, even though he doesn't really use it. Really strong arm, and again, he showed his ability, which the offensive line I think was solid. I think it was better than people give it, way better, I should say, in pass pro than people gave it credit for. But again, so if I throw him on a random team, and he has better weapons, like the Bengals, he's got better weapons, but the O-line is not as solid. I feel good that he's going to bump up production and having better weapons. And that outweighs the risk of what does he look like with a bad O-line. So I've seen CJ Stroud do what he did last year, and he's on my list as far as who I want. And number 8 is Matthew Stafford. I would want him over CJ Stroud, but he's getting up there, and he doesn't have the mobility. But Matthew Stafford, I mean, again, just like Aaron Rodgers, he had a lot of eras like Taylor Swift. So we've seen him with the bad team with no expectations. We've seen him with the bad defense. We've seen him with the good defense. We've seen him in the air it out. We've seen him in the play action. We've seen him in a bit of a more run heavy. Definitely a gunslinger. Definitely will give you some turnovers. But yeah, it's hard for me to see many situations where Stafford wouldn't be able to be an effective quarterback. Now, at this point in his career, if I get the Panthers, I keep pulling them out. It's probably worse offensive lines. But even if I get the Jets, really strong defense, terrible off. Well, they retooled, but we'll see. But I'm thinking of last year. If he's getting tons of pressure, he's been there and he knows how to handle it, and he knows how to make enough plays for our defense to help us win. So Stafford for me. Number 9, Jordan Love. Again, similar to CJ Stroud. Just for me, he gets a lot of praise. I got to see him more because he's a Packer. I've seen him more than the average, but I have to see him in more situations where he does not have a lot of time. Because the games that I've watched, Bears and otherwise, when he gets pressured, it looks very different. And I don't mean to say any quarterback is good when they're pressured. Obviously, most are worse, maybe except Mahomes. But it was night and day. And we've seen quarterbacks have a hot streak and then kind of fizzle out because they never adjust to that pressure. And again, teams are going to see that, and we'll see how he adjusts to that. But for me, especially like the earlier part of the season, he had so much time to throw because he wasn't playing teams that could put pressure on him. And so I'll have to see what that looks like. But look, the arm talent, the mobility, the build, and again, I look at difficulty. I seen him operate a sophisticated, Sean McVay-esque pass offense. And I seen him do that. And he did it with receivers that weren't, they were very young. But similar to CJ Stroud, again, the Packers had much better pass pro than people gave them credit for. And so I just got to wait, I got to wait that out. Would he crumble under pressure, like actual pressure? Maybe. But if I get a team where he's got better weapons, or if I get a team, maybe we end up on Baltimore and we're going to play ball control, I think it's easier to walk backwards to that because I've seen him operate at a high level. Now, this is the one everybody going to hate. Lamar Jackson at 10. Here's the thing, people, and I refer you back. I'm talking about a random team. People seem to think, well, this is true of everything, but especially with Lamar, people seem to think when you point out like not the obvious, but like the objective and just what it is, that you're hating, and it's just crazy. It's crazy to me. Thing is, playoffs, we seen Lamar. Yes, I said I wasn't talking about playoffs earlier. 100% true. The issue is that's when we see the Ravens against better teams. And that's when we see teams game plan to specifically handicap what the Ravens do. Now, even throw that out, throw the playoffs out. Lamar Jackson or the Baltimore Ravens have been top 3 in rushing every year since Lamar has been there. And I was telling my friend that earlier, and he said, yeah, that's because of Lamar. They were top 10 the year before he got there. So I'm not saying that Lamar doesn't deserve credit. He deserves most of the credit. Not most, but probably 50% of the credit. But the fact is, the Ravens under Harbaugh, and even before him, have always built on running the ball. The personnel, the entire personnel is built to have an effective run game. They built an offense for him as a rookie to get him involved in the run game and to make it more run-centric to limit his passes. On top of that, he's had a top 3 defense in points per game since he's been there. So I've said this many times before. The Ravens in last year is a great example. The Ravens will control the clock, especially early on. Lamar's going to scare you with his running. They're going to control the clock with the run. And then the defense is going to give the offense short fields. They're going to play good field position, or they're going to get turnovers. And then when you have a number 1 rushing offense, you capitalize, you get a lead. And once you got a lead, guess what? The other team has to get one dimensional, which leads to more turnovers or worse field position. And that allows your offense to run even more. Now, get in a situation where you're trailing and you have to come back, or that your defense is not giving you any turnovers and you have to start from the 25, from the 20 every drive. You got no freebies when you can't scramble around and win. I always say football is a game of inches and seconds. When you got 50 seconds left on the clock, 2 timeouts, and you're down, or not 50, but let's say 3 minutes on the clock, 2 timeouts, you down 10. You're not just going to be able to scramble around all the time. You got to play passing football. And we have seen over and over when Lamar has had to do that, he is not great at it. He ain't the worst, but he ain't great. And so when I'm talking about a random team, yes, Lamar as an elite athlete will improve the run game. But will he make it all the way to the top 3? I don't know. Is he going to scare people on the scramble? Yes. But what if he gets with a defense that can't stop nobody? I haven't seen that from Lamar. And on top of that, what I have seen from Lamar, I don't think that will translate well. So yes, Lamar's a supreme talent. He's in my top 10, but no, he's number 10 for me. He's number 10 for me. All right, so that's it for me. Go down the comment section. Let me know what you think. Give me your list if you got one using those parameters. And if you got any ideas about film sessions, let me know as well. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up. Thank you for listening.